area. But we want to stress right now that basically in New England, there's been so many independents, so many wrestling organizations that come up. People think just because they see wrestling, they think of big arenas. Well, if you can zoom back in and see where we are here, we're in a little local YMCA, and it's a little different than the WCW Nitro shows or the WWF production and all the big TVs and all the glitz and all the glamour. I'm going to introduce you right now, one of the legends, the intense wrestlers. Whether it be WCW, WWF, or any three letters, this man has done it all. He's been to Japan, he's been all over the world, world renowned, Georgia heavyweight champion. He's been everywhere. Let me introduce you people, Axe Demolition. It's great to have you back, Axe.
Very good. Nice to be here. Nice to be here. As you mentioned before, we're in a YMCA, and a lot of the people don't realize that this is where the real wrestling takes place, in these buildings, because the fans are up close. You put the chairs, they're only 10, 12 feet away, and the wrestlers can go out and they can talk to the people, sign autographs, take pictures, chat with the fans. And this takes me back to when I started years ago. All the things you see now, like you mentioned with the two big groups, WCW and WWF, they're in these big complexes. And they can't, you can't go out and talk with the people. And I miss that.
Well, I can't, I can differ with that. I like fireworks, but I like it on the 4th of July. I mean, it seems like every match is going to be fireworks. There's going to be the fire. There's going to be this. There's going to be the jumping in the air. What happened to the wrestling intensity? The wrestling that made wrestling what it is today, the foundation. You guys were the pioneers of wrestling. You had to tour, you had to drive, you had to endure all these long hours in the car, you had to endure all this away from your family life and all the things that people don't even realize. They don't even touch base. They look at a professional wrestling card, and on that poster, it may say professional wrestling, but they have to endure a lot. To be on the road, how many days have you been on the road consecutively without seeing your family, eating restaurants, dealing with people day in and day out?
Well, to be very honest, it would vary. Sometimes it would be 35 to 45 days, and for a couple spans it was 300 and some days in a row. And it creates problems, and you have to have an understanding family. You've got to have I was fortunate, and am fortunate, I have a strong wife, and she raised my girls for me, but it is demanding. And I think right now, the way wrestling is, it's TV driven. Both major organizations have forgot about the fans, and they're just driving for ad money, and they forgot the fans. And this is where it's at. I mean, and I think it's going to go back into the small arenas, the small buildings, where it's a family affair. And unfortunately, a lot of the cable shows you see right now, you can't take your family to.
Oh no, absolutely not. With all the rippings of clothes coming off, a nightgown match, swimming pool match, pigs in a blanket match. Wrestling, it's like in any other eye. It's in the public eye, and what you feed people is what they're going to reflect on. The reflection between WCW and WWF, now there's a big decline in WCW, the jump this way, the jump that way. Tell us the difference between the wrestlers staying in a territory because they like it, they're getting along with the bookers say, and they're getting along with the promotion fine, and there's no waves in and day out, all these hotlines every day something's happening. But people don't realize that's what wrestling is all about. There's a lot of heat and there's a lot of friction all the time because you have the psychological effect each wrestler on each other, and say Ric Flair and Hulk Hogan. I mean, how many times are they going to go around with that, around and again before they can just put it to bed?
Yeah, well, like I said, it's a money-driven factor right now. A lot of the wrestlers, myself included, I stayed in the South for a long time because, one, I liked the good warm weather.
And you were close to home.
And I was close to home, and I got an opportunity to be home 3 or 4 nights a week, whereas now, it's like the circus. You're in one town one night, you're in Philadelphia, then the next night you're in St. Louis, and the next night you literally might be in Tokyo, and I've done that. And you go 3 or 4 months like that, compounded with injuries, compounded with problems at home, and compounded with problems with your children, and all these things. You're sitting in a locker room, and all of a sudden there's an explosion, and you realize you're in the middle of it.
Well, the wear and tear is devastating. What people understand is that professional wrestling goes back to the days of Gorgeous George when they actually put a hold on for half an hour to 45 minutes. And it was a little different than this lucha libre and jumping around. I mean, some of the stuff just isn't believable anymore. I mean, being a wrestler myself, I'm a little anti-old-fashioned, so to speak, because I like the toughness of the wrestling and doing the move at the right time. Well, body slam means something when you got it up there and they take that essential big body slam and it crashes. Not 2, 3, 4 times the same thing. It becomes not believable. It becomes like an old mentor of mine used to say, it becomes like a cartoon going back and forth, and it's not telling you anything, it's not doing anything.
Well, I have to agree with you. I think that that stems from the fact that it's just like a football. A good football team, you get a good coach. It's like a good baseball team, you get a good manager. And he hones all the skills. And unfortunately, there's a lot of professional wrestlers that aren't really professional wrestlers. They go to the gym, they pump themselves up to be near Herculean size, and they think that just because they look the part, they are the part. Well, that's not it. You've got to learn any craft. If you're going to be a good electrician, you better know the electrical procedure. If you want to be a good plumber, you better know what pipe goes where. If you're going to be a good wrestler, you better know the counters, the holds, the moves, and the timing.
Well, the timing's a big thing, but you have these rings, these small 16-foot rings. I know probably the odd day there's probably rings up to 20 by 20, because I know years ago, that's another thing, it was sanctioned and supervised by the State Athletic Commission. You'd always hear that. And at ringside, this guy here, they were always there because there had to be a ring apron, a bigger ring. These smaller rings today, the 16-foot rings, they're back and forth over the top rope, the cable ropes, the turnbuckles, compared to years ago when someone did a big move off the top rope. They did it once or twice, and that was set for that moment. Now they're doing it like clockwork, and it just doesn't, it's, to a guy like you, I know if Juventud Guerrero jumped up on your chest, you just throw him down. I mean, there's no way you're going to take that hurricanrana. I know you're not.
Well, I don't even know how to pronounce it, let alone take it. But,
and the Kaziri, and then you got the Tajahajave, you got all these words. Whatever happened to a side headlock to a drop down, get it again, Daddy? I mean, what happened to that?
Well, you know, there again, I'm going back to the fact that a lot of these guys, I'm not criticizing them, but they have to learn the moves, they have to learn the technique, they have to learn the psychology.
Right.
You can't sit in front of the TV and become a good football player because you know all the rules. You can't become a good professional wrestler because you know 55 different moves when you only should be able to use 4 or 5 of them correctly.
Absolutely.
And you said it earlier, I mean, I've sat and I've watched matches, and I've sat with family and friends that have watched matches, and they walk away shaking their head. They said there's no absolute way that they could actually do that to anybody because it's not real. I mean, you know, they'd kill somebody. And it's better to go into a match with a couple good things in mind and go in there with 50 or 60 moves and walk away and nothing means anything.
Yeah, it just becomes more like a workout. It becomes a workout. It's like, you know, they go to the gym and they're doing the moves over and over again. That's what I used to, I used to make guys do the hip tosses so they got it right, the forward rolls so you got it right, but getting back to you yourself, your personal life, I know that you've got a lot of things in the iron, and tell us about your personal life and what you're doing now compared to what you were doing in your big heyday in the WWF, and what your thoughts are about Vince McMahon, what he's doing right now with professional wrestling, as well as WCW also. We want to get those points too with, what's his name, Bill Bush down there. I know it changes so much. You got the righties, Ferrara, you got this guy, you got so many guys writing. This guy got the book tomorrow night, he's off. The next guy got the book that night. This guy, it's just got so many things going on. It becomes, well, my buddy got the book tonight, so I'm going to get a push. And then this night here, this guy takes a night off. Who's in the hospital because of their personal problems, may it be at home or physical or quote unquote, whatever you want to think. But there's a lot of things going on in wrestling that we want to reach you, because I know I don't get you here very often. I want to get you down on in this corner because you're my favorite tag team wrestler of all time, especially when you picked Fuji up, gave him that big slam at WrestleMania, and the cane and all that stuff. That meant something. That meant something. I can watch that 10 times over and over again. At least it meant something.
Yeah, I appreciate that. As of, I used to be a teacher before I got into professional wrestling years ago, and a couple years ago I went back into teaching. I work with disadvantaged youth, juvenile detention service. And we've got a couple things planned, hopefully in the next year or two, developing some halfway houses for the kids are in trouble. I don't get an opportunity to watch wrestling as much as I did before. When I was active, and because I'm in bed early, I get up at 4 o'clock. I've got to be at the school at 6. So but I hear a lot of the comments. A lot of the kids still watch it, and to be very honest, they're disillusioned. They all say, well, it's not like when you used to wrestle, Mr. So-and-so, and it's not like it used to be 5, 6 years ago, and I don't believe this and I don't believe that. And I think it's because of the commercialization. They're all into it right now to get a character and then push a doll or push a cartoon series or push a toy. And as far as Vince, I have very little to say about that.
Oh, I knew you wouldn't say much anyway. Well, let me take over at this point. I knew I had you on that one. I had that from the get-go, but that's fine. The other things, like, I mean, can you tell me the difference between, I know I was down in Florida in 1983 wrestling, and I used to watch Georgia Championship Wrestling from Atlanta, and they had that little ring and that little noise in the little crowd, and compare those days of doing TV to the days of now and all these people. It looks unbelievable. It's just unbelievable compared to that.
Well, years ago, it was like a studio wrestling you had mentioned. I think some of the fans that have been watching wrestling for a number of years can remember that. And there was a different feeling. I mean, there was a closeness to the fans, and the fans developed a friendship or a hatred towards their particular fan favorite or their villain. And they don't do that now because, you know, like I said, you might be in Philadelphia taping, and then you're in LA taping and this and that. And it's more of a circus production. It's an event. Some people go to the matches now because they want to see who's there or what's there, but the live show doesn't live up to the TV production. And time after time after time, people have come up to tell me and other wrestlers, well, gee, it's not like it is on TV. No, they have fireworks and 25 different cameras, and they're disappointed. And believe me, I think if people go to a smaller arena, you're trying to develop, and it's trying to be developed all over the United States, that closeness, it's exciting. You know, you're not involved in a television show, you're involved in a wrestling production, a wrestling show.
Well, as you know, we most of these local shows that are done from local promoters, so many wrestling promoters, EBW, ASA, 2, 3 numbers, all letters, NWA, SWA, DFF, FAP, all these letters. But the whole thing goes back to being a basic wrestling show in a small area where you get the kids to come up to you and shake your hand, get to see an autograph, get to say, hi, how are you? And it's just a little more of a touch and go. I know when I used to be a kid going to Boston Garden, I was one of those guys that would wait around the side there when Bruno used to come out, because Bruno used to walk all the way around the garden before he got to his spot where he came out, because he used to like to do a little warm-up, I guess. And from that, that was maybe 10 or 20 people that knew that he was going to do that. Most of the people waiting for that big entrance back then, but they knew he was going to do that walk around and get close to the wrestler, get an autograph. It's just a better show being on this level. But getting back to WCW, I mean, there's been so many different bookers with WCW. I know Kevin Sullivan personally because I've known him from years. He's from Lexington. And being down in Florida in '83, he was down there as the Prince of Darkness with Kevin Sullivan. I believe it was Mark Loon, I'm sure.
Right. I remember him.
The Loon brothers from '65. They're in the encyclopedia, aren't they?
They're in something. I'm not sure.
As well as Argentina, Rocca.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, the
Matter of fact, I saw Mark Malone not too long ago. We did a benefit show in Singapore, of all places.
Wow.
He was over there, and it was good to see him again, yeah. He's a legend.
Oh, absolutely. He's in great shape. He's probably still in great shape.
Oh, yeah.
He's trained hard.
Yeah.
In and out of the arena, he's training every night, and he's very, very, very great shape. All right, well, we want to thank you very much, and we hope you have good luck.
My pleasure, my friend. Good seeing you.
They got you in some kind of three-way dance tonight. Are you familiar with those three guys in the ring?
I'm not a very good dancer. Three-way fight maybe, but I'm not in a...
I know once you get them with a couple of those axe handles, that's it though, right?
I'm not too good at dancing, but fighting I can hold my own.
So you're going to come on top tonight? You're going to win the global championship?
Well, I'm going to try it.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Here, right here in this corner with Rocky Raymond, and we got a special guest. All you people in Boston, you can never forget this name. Often imitated but never duplicated, not in this lifetime. This man went all over the world, Australia, all over every place, Japan, wrestled all the big names, whether it be the Giant Baba, Ivan Koloff, Lou Albano, the legend, the King of Endurance, Killer Kowalski, the man that had the Iron Claw. I wrestled him once too, you know, when I was 21. And he blew me up. But right now, let's go to this man, the living legend, Bruno Sammartino, right here on In This Corner. Great to see you, Bruno.
Thank you, Rocky. Good to be here.
Well, it's great, you know, come out of my character a little bit here and give you a great interview, but You know, in professional wrestling today, if you don't have a character, you're not much of anything. But back in your day, it was boots and tights. And I want you to tell a little bit about the old days of wrestling, what it meant to go into the ring with a pair of trunks, a pair of boots, and what I call Bruno Sammartino charisma.
Well, in those days, you know, we had so many, such great talent. You mentioned the Kowalskis, the Koloff, Tanaka, Bill Miller, Don Leo Jonathan. I could go on and on and on. And these guys, in my opinion, they were all great, great athletes. They were always in great shape. No drugs. They were strictly legitimate endurance and bodies from hard training and so forth. And when we went in the ring, I think that we gave the people some wrestling. We gave them some roughhousing. But overall, we showed them our great conditioning, we showed them our wrestling skills, and we showed them our strength. We showed them a lot of stuff, and it was all, in my opinion, all legit in the sense of that there was no chemicals, so there was no exaggerations like it followed years later. And so, I miss those days, and unfortunately, I have to be honest, I'm not crazy about the turn that wrestling took.
Now, basically, back to professional wrestling as you knew it back in the day. You traveled all over the world, and a lot of times, you were never on TV. I remember as a kid, they never showed Bruno Sammartino on a TV Saturday afternoon, very rarely. But now they got these wrestling. I know you don't watch professional wrestling. You're better off watching Scooby-Doo or some kind of cartoon, but the intensity of building up a wrestler being back in the day where there was only like 14, 15 guys underneath you. There wasn't 30, 40, 50 guys like there are now.
No. In those days, I would appear on television a lot, but strictly to do interviews, to talk about my opponent, to talk about if it was going to be in a Boston Garden, or let's say like it was against Kowalski. I would be talking about my upcoming match with Kowalski, what I expected as far as my opponent and his abilities and what have you. So they were interviews strictly to talk about the upcoming match. But the thing was, it was in a Boston Garden or Madison Square, whatever, where people came to see the matches. And like you said, we had maybe 5 other matches underneath it, sometimes maybe 6, but that was it. And so it's completely changed because now they give it everything on television, and perhaps that's why maybe the arenas around the country are not doing so well at all.
Well, it's like putting the people in the seats. You have to build up a name, but now there's so many names that they're projecting from one crowd to another. But we want to talk a little about this thing that we're going to try to be doing with this Mac Classic stuff, with these great, great matches that were filmed all over the country, whether it be Madison Square Garden. I know Pittsburgh was a great town for your hometown, as well as Boston. I mean, can you name 3 of the top towns that were your favorite towns that you'd wrestled for when you were in the old WWF with Willie Gilzenberg and Cookie and all those guys?
Right, that's right. Oh, very simple. My 3 favorite towns in those days was Boston, New York, and Philadelphia. Of course, Pittsburgh, too, because it's my town. But away from home, these 3 were the great, because Boston Garden here, the people used to chant my name, and they would always have practically a full house. And the people just treated me so great. And I have to say the same thing with when I appeared in Madison Square Garden. A lot of the Italians, of course, they would chant my name and so forth. It was really a thrill. In Philadelphia, I was treated well, too. But every place I wrestled in the United States, I would have to call these 3 as, for me, my favorite 3 towns.
And the credibility of a professional wrestler showing up, whether they're injured, or back injury, a knee injury, a neck injury, a twisted anything. And at that particular time, there wasn't fill-ins that they could pull in off the bench. It's more like a baseball game now. You can pull someone right off the bench. But these guys had to perform each and every night, whether they were injured or not. The guys like the Sheik, the original Sheik from Detroit, you wrestled them very, very brutal matches. Kowalski, the King of Endurance, he was one of your more brutal matches. You compare these matches to these people, these young kids that talk about ECW, Extreme Wrestling. Extreme Wrestling was always in professional wrestling, because that's what it said on the marquee. Professional wrestling, it was always extreme, not just because some guy made up some music and put a couple of guys in the ring and made it blood, sweat, and tears. It was always extreme, Bruno. It was always extreme.
Well, it was extreme, yes, but it was in the ring, basically. Sure, we went outside the ring sometimes. Sure, you saw a chair fight, but you didn't see this nonsense with the garbage cans, step ladders, drums, I mean, all this kind of stuff. That I don't understand where it came from. But in those days, if you looked at my era of wrestling, with the Kowalski, the Koloff, you see all these guys with the busted nose, the cauliflower ears, because that came from hard blows within the ring with one another, using the wrestling maneuvers and very stiff elbows and fists sometimes and the feet sometimes. But there were no garbage cans, there were no step ladders around to do the stuff that they called extreme wrestling. I didn't even understand what that had to do with professional wrestling. So in those days, I think there were a lot of tough guys, and they went in the ring, and we all got marked up, we all got our injuries. And yes, I remember having busted fingers, a cracked rib, busted my nose 11 times, but you still had to go, because if you were the headliner, they advertised you, that's what people expected to see, and by gosh, no matter what the pain, you had to go in there and you just do the best you could.
And I'm sure there was plenty of nights that you could have just sat out and said, listen, I can't do it. But you never canceled a show that I remember, and I was a fan going back to the 70s, and you always showed. There's only one time you were pinned. You were pinned by the fog. You were pinned by the fog in Boston one time. The plane couldn't land.
The plane couldn't land, but the other time what I did miss too was when I broke my neck in 1976, where I was in the hospital for over a month. Then, of course, you missed. But as far as other injuries like a fracture or torn muscle, pulled ligaments, or busted nose or stuff like that, nah, you didn't miss. You had to go on.
Well, there wasn't too many people that could get a professional wrestler in the middle of the ring in a hammerlock and get the crowd counting. There's no crowd reaction to where they were into the match, where the matches had psychology, they had meaning to the match. The return match meant something. They put matches on now, they're returning 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 15 times. They're wrestling each other 20 times within 1 month, where you wrestled the same guy in the main event. You came around, you wrestled them, and then it became something. It meant something. It was a story.
Well, it's because of the way we did the match, and it's like you say, it was a story, because the first match led to a second, and then led to a third. Today they go in there, they do all these flip-flops, somersaults, this and that, but there's not really a whole lot of meaning to any kind of a build-up for next month or whatever. So it's a completely different ball game.
Is there anything that you'd like to say to the younger people out there that are per se using the wrong kind of things to enhance their ability, their size, and their strength in the department of which you really wouldn't say you to do at this time?
You mean wrestlers? I would tell anybody who would want to be a wrestler, I would say that do it legitimately, train hard, get into a wrestling program, whether it be in high school or college or whatever, but train with the weights, do conditioning training as well, whether it be running or swimming or endurance work, but do it naturally, because ultimately you're an athlete, you want your health to be great, you want to be great at what you do, but at the same time maintain great health at the same time.
All right, Bruno, well, we've taken up your time. I know you've got a big schedule coming up. You're going to be coming to the Boston area once again, because I know that you're out there now. And the best man in the Northeast from 1983 to 2004, I'm going to give you some more, because I got it all from short and tall. All these people often imitated but never duplicated. It's the man of the foundation of professional wrestling. None of these joke kids that all these wrestling schools are letting these kids get in the ring. They're taking their money, that's all they want, and that's what they have. Professional wrestling will never be the way it was with Bruno Sammartino.
Thank you, Rocky. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
We're back here with Bruno Sammartino. We want to talk a little bit more about the Mat Classics from Boston Garden. Madison Square Garden, the EPW cam goes from coast to coast and border to border. And we want to just show you something that maybe you people haven't seen. This is an 8mm Super 8 camera right here, Bell & Howell. But it's now going to be named the Bruno Sammartino camera, because we took a lot of these matches that you're going to be seeing on the Grade 8 or wherever you see them around the world, because they're going to go coast to coast and border to border shortly. We're going to have Bruno sign this camera, and it's going to become the legendary Bruno Sammartino camera. And we want to thank you again, Bruno, for coming down and being with us.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Okay.
We're here at World Gym in Summer with the living legend, Bruno Sammartino. It's me, it's BBB, the only man that can bring the oldest, the best, the foundation of professional wrestling to Boston. Here he is, the living legend, Bruno. Tell him a couple of words in Italian, Bruno.
Well, a tutti voi cari paesani di qui di Boston, sono tanto contento di trovarmi qui in Boston, vi saluto a tutti e vi ringrazio sempre per tutti gli anni fa che mi avete dato tanto coraggio e supporto qui a Boston.
And remember to watch Empire Pro Wrestling, the best of the best. The living legend's going to be there. The interview's coming. Watch it from 10 to 11 on the Grade 8 with who? The living legend.
Well, thank you, Rocky. Looking forward to it.
The best there is. Bruno Sammartino, be there. The Boston bad girl, Brittany Brown. So without any further ado, let's get right to the action with the Boston bad girl, Brittany Brown. Here's the music. Here's the music. Okay. Well, we had a little introduction music, but I guess they forgot about it. I don't know. Okay, we're back here on this corner, and it's great to have you back here.
Thank you.
And I know we got some great, great things to talk about. And you've been going coast to coast and border to border with the professional wrestling. Maybe you can enlighten us a little bit here in this great town of Winthrop on what you've been doing since you've been on the show last.
Oh, Lord. I've wrestled in Charlotte, North Carolina. I've wrestled in Chicago. I've been everywhere. I've just been so busy, it's unreal. But it's nice to be back in Massachusetts for once.
And you got a lot of things coming up. The first of the year coming up. You're planning some big, big things for the Boston area. And
Absolutely.
well, tell us a little bit about the LIWA, the Great Ladies International Wrestling Association.
Well, that is, as you said, the Ladies International Wrestling Association. The fabulous Moolah, as you all know, her, how can anyone forget her? She's the president of that association. And that's a non-profit organization to build a retirement home for retired lady and man wrestlers. They have a West Coast reunion every year in June in Las Vegas, and this year coming up, 1998, they're having their first East Coast reunion. And it's going to be held in Randolph, Mass. At Lombardo's, and it's going to be August 13th through 16th. So I think there's a lot of people inquiring about that already at the LIWA 1 website. Everybody's talking about it.
Okay, and the great fabulous Moolah, people in the Boston area remember her. She used to come down the aisle and she used to get the guy Jingles, chase him around the ring. She wanted a piece of that guy, but the fabulous Moolah, I tell you, she's got more moves than a bowl of jello. I was down there in Vegas, oh, not last year, the year before, and oh, she's still got a punch, boy. She can pack a punch, and that Mae Young, I saw her head get rammed into a door. She turned around like she just got a breeze from a fan and went right back in the ring.
Right.
Now, how old are these legends of ladies wrestling?
Oh, I don't think you're
Oh, I
supposed
shouldn't
to
have said
repeat
that.
things
Wait a
like
minute
that.
now.
Don't you know you're not supposed to ask a lady her age or ask a
Well-
lady another lady's age?
Well, just make sure they got a gold card, right? Is that it? Basically, the fabulous Moolah. I bet you she's got a gold
Sure,
card.
she's got several.
Now, she's got that big ranch down there in
Columbia, South Carolina.
South Carolina. I almost said north. I'm glad I hesitated there, because always take the direction of a woman, because they can always guide you straight to the arrow. They keep your arrow straight. Now, I know she trains down there with Donna Christinella, some of the old timers. Who are the other names, old names? Tony Rose,
Vicky Williams.
Vicky
Joyce
Williams.
Grable. You're going way back, long before my time, right around when you first started.
All right, well, let's forget about them for now, and let's get back with the Boston bad girl, Brittany Brown. And we got a tape in the box right now. We're going to have Tom Collins hit the button, and we want to see the Boston bad girl at Thompson International Speedway.
Oh, just recently.
That's right. Okay, let's go to that tape. I think I might spy.
Okay, we got the championship match. We got the ladies. Let's rock and roll. So behind takedown by the Boston Bad Girl. Kick out by Brandy Alexander. And oh, she makes the eyes now. The Boston Bad Girl. Turning it on here. Against the hometown girl, Brandy Alexander. Oh. Oh, Boston Bad Girl. Chokehold now. Headlock now by Boston Bad Girl. Above the rope. Oh, big Rocky's rope now. As Brandy Alexander sent railing. Oh, a handful of hair now by Brandy Alexander. Oh, the Boston Bad Girl. With a handful of hair as Brandy Alexander sent railing here. As the man said, big vicious. Oh! Oh, one more time as she gets it again. One more. Oh, boy. In the corner now. Oh, she reels it out. Oh, she sends a railing. The Boston Bad Girl.
Boston Bad Girl. Got a choke down the roof. Oh, big move. Oh, big clothesline. Ready out there. We need some support for the hometown girl. Let's go. This is Brandy, Connecticut. Oh, no. You can't pin the referee. Outside interference, and the second referee raises their hand. Oh, what's this now? Oh! Back here on In This Corner, and I tell you, unbelievable footage from the International Speedway, which is the annual show for the Empire Pro Wrestling Organization, based right here in beautiful Winthrop, Massachusetts. And our next guest, needless to say, is one of the darkest of all people in the Empire Pro Wrestling Organization. Has made his way through and up the ladder and knocking them dead, the Dark Warrior. All right, great to have you here on the great talk show of Winthrop, In This Corner, with the real Boston Bad Boy, not to be mixed up with anyone that can't wrestle. We know that situation, and we want to be telling all the people that there's only one bad boy and there's only one wrestler named the Boston Bad Boy, and that's yours truly, Rocky Raven. Okay, let's get back to the Dark Warrior, and I know that you've been in the Empire Pro Wrestling. I believe you made your debut last April at the Everett High School Night of Thunder, and yeah. I believe
yeah, we had the kind of the Battle of the Warriors thing going on there.
Battle of the Warriors. Now, actually, you come out on top, but there was some controversy with a gentleman weighing 358 pounds coming to the ring, that masked Vader. Raider, not Vader. Vader's another man, but the masked Raider.
I don't know about any controversy. All I know is the boy's shoulders were on the mat, 1, 2, 3, and the rest is how they say history.
History, huh? Now, is there anything? I mean, I know that you're in with the sort of the cult of Empire Pro Wrestling. We have a group that follows you around, and I
have my boys, you know, watch my back.
They have that black mask, and I know you have a gentleman known as the Ninja, the Black Ninja. Now, I also know that you got another guy also under your wing there.
He's an up-and-comer.
He's an up-and-comer, but he won't get near the ring, will he?
Nah, he's a little tentative, you know.
He's a little tentative, but we're going to get him going. Okay, now basically you have a match coming up with one of the big names here in Empire Pro Wrestling. You signed the dotted line to go against the Empire Pro heavyweight champion, just newly crowned champion, Pierre the Mountie. And I tell you, he's been training, he's been hanging, he's been banging in the gym.
Well, he's going to need all that and more when the time comes to walk the aisle.
Well, I tell you, he's got some comments, and he's going to be on the end of the show.
Fine with me. I ain't going nowhere.
Huh. Let me tell you something. He's been knocking them dead. He has a second region as the champion here in Empire Pro Wrestling after beating the Lumberjack, and then they had a return match in the cage where the Lumberjack, he's so clumsy, he's the guy that tripped over the cordless phone, so to speak, as far as wrestling training goes. And he fell out of the cage, and he retained the title. I mean, he regained the title, and I think that Pierre the Mountie, he come back to Winthrop, and he beat him. Took the title back?
No doubt about it. I mean, like I said, I never sell anybody short.
Okay, well, we're going to have him on later in the show, but right now, let's go to that tape with the Dark Warrior against Doink the Clown at Thompson International Speedway. International Speedway. We got the big ones here. We got the Doink the Clown. We got the other man coming up next. Now the Dark Warrior taking on here. And Doink the Clown. In the corner now. And the Dark Warrior working him over. Oh, big shot. And I think it's Doink the Clown. right here. And we got the big one coming up, the Empire Pro Heavyweight Championship that's coming up next. How many people like joint the crowd out there? How about the Dark Warrior? Here on In This Car this week, and we got a great array of things to come here. And we're going to have coming out next the Coyote of Empire Pro Wrestling, one of the premier wrestlers in the independent circuits, Christopher Grand. And let's have him come out right now. Christopher Grand making his way onto the set here of In This Corner.
You know something, it's just got to give people an absolute thrill just to be in the same room with you. You know that?
I would think so.
Oh, unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable.
Okay. Basically, we got the Coyote of Empire Pro Wrestling here on our anniversary show at WCAT-TV, the Cat here in Winthrop. And respectively, we are #1 here on WCAT-TV, and we got the Dark Warrior here. And just to get back with you a little bit on that match with Doink the Clown, he sort of splashed you out a little bit in the end there. What's the story with that?
Well, I mean, you look in any rule book, that's a foreign object. #1, I made a mistake in the beginning of the match, and I wrestled that match with a separated shoulder. The guy couldn't beat me. He knew he wasn't going to beat me. He didn't have a chance, a snowball's chance in HE double hockey sticks, if you know what I mean, of beating me 1, 2, 3 in the middle of the ring. Bottom line is, he knew he was beat. He got me with the water. I'm not so sure it was water. My eyes were stinging. I couldn't see. Went back in the ring. Next thing I know, that circus freak is dancing around with his hand raised. I'm getting bottles thrown at me, and people are yelling at me. And before I knew it, that was it.
Now, I know basically that they're going to be back, and that sidewalk slam that you gave him to the side, I mean, he kicked right out of it. He said that there was basically no power behind it, and he said that he had better punishment basically when he was in the circus.
Oh, well, see, everybody talks after the fact. I mean, after the fact, you know, in the ring he didn't have too much to say. I pretty much owned the whole match with a blown-out shoulder, okay? He didn't say 2 words to me, period. He knew he was beat. He had his head down. He knew he locked out. I mean, that was like hitting the lottery for him to beat me.
Okay, well, let's get right down to that manager. He come in here at Empire Pro Wrestling. I mean, he's been making his way throughout the New England area with all the independent networks. I mean, he's been going from coast to coast and border to border with that management. And why don't you tell us a couple of guys that you were graced to the square circle with? I mean, you made your appearance there, I believe, in, what is that? Over the Top Rope promotion, your initial debut, and then you came a little bit into Empire Pro Wrestling here in that Rage in the Cage in Winthrop, and you got bashed around there.
Oh, what a time that was, huh? Absolutely.
Tell us some of the guys that you were managing in that. You know, enlighten us how great a manager that you are. I mean, you're never lost for words. Don't get lost now.
Not a chance, Mr. Raymond. I just didn't want to have a chance of you stepping on me while I go through this incredible list.
Well, let me tell you, we got a bunch of guys here from the KWA, and they're looking for management, they're looking for direction. They already made their debut at Monday Night Nitro, and let me tell you, there's a couple of big guys. Let me just go over some of the names that they have. They have the champion of the KWA, Brunswick 300. Now, what do you think of that one? And then we have the manager, Kingpin, and then we have another one, the Pin Monkey, and then we have the Honorable Mr. Dr. Professor Coroto. That's like my little toe, but they're all waiting to get into that professional wrestling, and they may be looking for a manager, so enlighten us. Tell us the things that you can do for professional wrestlers.
Basically, it's very simple what I do. I take someone like this gentleman and I alleviate him of any and every problem that he might have. In other words, I handle all the fine details, all the little stuff, all the little things that could possibly detract a man from his game plan. So in essence, when he goes out to the ring, someone like this monstrosity, the only thing he's got to do is go out and do what he does best. And after seeing that last match you have, that's just beat the living daylights out of people. Unbelievable.
For you.
Fantastic.
Now,
Mr. Raymond, I've taken people, I've managed people such as the model Rick Martel. I've been out with King Kong Bundy, and the list is endless. Basically, whoever I go out with, you can count on one thing. They're going to win.
They're going to win?
They're going to win.
Well, I remember a night many, many moons ago when you first started managing, when you, I really don't want to say it, but you managed yours truly. And I didn't win, and I didn't get the bigger part of the purse, and you got your body in the ring, you took off that stupid boot, and the other guy got it, nailed me with the boot, I lost the match, and I lost the bigger end of the purse. So what are you talking about? With your shiny boots on and your Hugo Boss suit and your Texas tie, you come up here and you're trying to lead us into something that you're not? I started, and I tell you, the match started, I wrestled Virgil, I was kicking him all over the ring, and then the end of the match, he gets up with a Slim Jim Jr., he pulls off his boot, and I get disqualified, and I lose the bigger purse of the match. Now, are you going to tell me any different now?
No, I just know that you might have lost the bigger portion of the purse. I certainly didn't come out any shorter on the money end. But,
well, we don't want to get into that now, do we? I mean, really.
I did my job.
Yeah, you did your job, all right. Okay. Let's just skip the, skip the note, skip it all. Let's get back to the Boston Bad Girl, the ladies champion. Maybe she can enlighten us a little bit about her little venture with you. Because also, as you can see on the wall, you were lucky enough to manage her on one occasion.
That is true. I sure was.
Once and once only, let me tell you.
I tell you, that's 2 in a row. I mean, one more and you're out. I mean, you managed Bundy and Jimmy Snuka. And,
Did they lose too?
Well, Jimmy Snuka whacked you, didn't he?
You know, you're basically talking about a couple of minor little disagreements.
Okay.
The one night that I happened to have been, and I will say this, fortunate enough to have managed someone like Brittany Brown, we had a few problems. It was just a communications problem. That's all.
But at least I still won the match, unlike some people.
Exactly, she sure did, without a doubt, and that is why she is the ladies' champion that she
It
is.
absolutely had nothing to do with you, though. I will tell you that.
Well, there were a lot of comments out there. I certainly made ring presence look a lot nicer with this profile, but
And I got
if
a
we're just
busted
talking
lip.
wrestling.
A busted lip I got because of you. First time ever.
Well, I should have told you my girlfriend was in the audience. You should have put your arm around me.
I thought that was your grandmother.
Oh, here we go. Let's get rocking and rolling here, and in this corner. Now let me tell you. Now let me not. I'm gonna go for the hat trick. Okay. Now what about last month? Can you remember last month?
Of course I can remember last month. What about it?
Can you remember the International Speedway when you were managing that wild man from the Dominican Republic? Astro Man. He was all over the place. He was going crazy, but he was put in his place by the new reigning champion, Pierre the Mountie, with those big guns from Canada. And I guess he got a piece of you, and as I can say, he sort of tossed you into the pole a little bit, and you were making love to that pole by the other night, and then when you went home, you had a big goose egg on your head, and you didn't even know where you were. I heard you say, I don't want to get into it. This guy, let me tell you, he's been ridiculing all the wrestlers. He's been making most of the wrestlers turn, the good guys turn. He's trying to get them all to become bad and, sort of like the NWO maybe, and get all, their feathers in an uproar. Now, the Dark Warrior, let me just give you words of advice. I am a little bit of, a veteran in the area. Do not let him manage you. I saw him talking to you in the back. Do not let him manage you, because you know what's going to happen. He's going to take the bigger part of the purse, like he just said, and he's going to walk away with the bigger part of the money, and he's going to leave you high and dry.
Well, see, what old Tex here don't know is you can't manage something that's unmanageable. I never needed anybody's help before. I don't need anybody's help now. Not that I, don't appreciate the words of praise. Hey, you're just speaking the truth. You're speaking your mind. You're just telling everybody what we already know. But as fact as Venom needing a manager, I don't see it happening anywhere in the near future.
Okay, well...
Exactly. You know, you want to see a clip so bad. There's a clip right here. See the monitor right here? Come over here with me. And I'm going to show you the clip. I have a clip to show you. You come with me, right over. Look right here. No. I'm not a monitor. I'm a person. Come over here to the monitor. See? Now look and see the clip? Yeah. See the clip? Yeah. How's that? How's that for a clip? Huh? Huh? How do you like it? Huh? You want to be my manager? Some other time, buddy.
Okay, let's get some...
Here's my question to Brittany. What do you say to those individuals who think ladies don't belong in professional wrestling?
Well, my answer basically is this. How's that for an answer?
I think I get the point.
Here's a man getting up right out of his chair. What is your name, sir?
My name is Bob Buck.
Bob Buck.
I do stonework.
What do you do?
I do stonework.
You
I'm
do
a construction worker. I think women should stay in the kitchen.
You think women should stay in the kitchen? Oh, my goodness, that's...
What do you want, lasagna?
That's incredible. That's, oh my goodness. We have a doctor in the house, Dr. Goldenson. Maybe he can rush down here and help this man. Oh my goodness.
What do you say, you next?
Oh, no, I'm not next. Maybe that young man right over there. Would you like to come out? No, he's saying no. Oh, Bob, geez, I hope you can get up. Would you help that man up? Help that man up. Oh my goodness.
Kick that bag. Kick that bag. Kick it. Kick that bag. Kick it harder. Kick that bag. Kick that bag. Kick it. Kick it. Kick it. Kick that fucking thing. Kick it. Harder. Kick it. Keep kicking it. Kick it up, kick it. Yeah. Kick it up. Kick it. Kick it from that. Spin around. Spin it, kick it. Ooh. Oh, shit. Kick it. Watch out there, buddy. What are you trying to do? Push out country. Empire Pro Wrestling coming at you right here from Somerville World Gym. You can see the kind of power he got behind his kicks. It's Super K, John Cronus, the original Eliminator. Watch out how he kicks his back. Get another shot of this cameraman. Zoom in. He almost killed me. He almost killed the big bold and beautiful. Hey, welcome everybody to this is in this con. And in this con has all the great wrestlers from around the world, whether it be ECW, WCW, former WWF legends, whether it be WWE, all the great names that are out there. Today we got a special guest in this corner with the original Eliminator, John Cronus. And we got a couple of questions for him. We're lucky to have him back. He's back from a world tour. He's been in Japan, Australia, as well as many other independent places around the world. And right now, John, we just got a couple of questions for you. We know that you just got a great makeover by Busto. They did a great job on your hair. And you got a new look now and a new name. What is the thing behind this new name that you got?
It's from, it's a long history.
More like your hardcore ability and your
Exactly.
educated feet that you have, as well as
the quickness of the feet, the agility to brawl and do gymnastics. It all comes from there.
And we all know you got no fear of
Blood, sweat, tables, chairs, ladders.
Well, you're just like, well, you know, I was a pretty hardcore wrestler myself in independent. They didn't like me too much because I was a little stiz at one time, you know. Stiz in the body, well, you Mizarks out there.
Yeah.
You know, you don't want to get in the ring with real wrestlers. What do you think of all these 15-year-old wrestlers that are getting to the ring? These backyard wrestling baloney.
I think it's ludicrous. They don't have the proper training. They don't have proper supervision.
Supervision, all that good stuff right here. In this corner this week, we got John Cronus. We got a couple more questions for him. How do you compare the good old USA compared to Japan, Australia, all the places that you've been? You've been touring quite a bit.
Sure have. Compare like Japan, Australia, they're totally different from here. They're total opposite of our cultures.
Now, I know in Japan, it's not the man's wrestling that has all the limelight. I know it's the women's wrestling.
Ooh, yeah.
They have all the big names out there. Monster Ripper, what's the other one? Boom, Nakano.
Yeah, think of them all.
We only have the Boston Bad Girl in this area, Brittany Brown, which was a very, very great. She trained with you, wasn't that correct?
Yes, very, very good women's wrestler. Let me tell you, one of the best ones I've seen in a while.
She was always on time, very punctual.
Yes, she's very stiff.
When she took a date, she never canceled.
Nope, stiff too.
You know, she was in Disneyland one time. She come back a day early from Disneyland just to wrestle for your mentor, Killer Kowalski.
Yes.
You know that?
It's very old.
I heard that you and Brittany Brown actually worked out in the ring together a while. Is that correct?
Sure did. It was a great experience working with her. I liked it.
And you like the Ric Flair of the late wrestling with that long blonde hair and the long body? Yeah, I mean, she was the king of the independents. I mean,
Oh, yeah. Very
always on time and always very punctual. All right, getting back to some other things here, Mr. Flores. In this corner with big, bold, and beautiful right here. We're at World's Gym in Somerville, as you all know. The big makeover. And we also have some other things. You are also a former tag team champion with Satin, that move, the total elimination. Now, what is that now? Just,
That's just, it's called,
just
annihilate.
Just eliminate.
Just to eliminate. Eliminate to annihilate.
Just eliminate.
That's it.
Just to eliminate. Well, you know, you need two moves for that. One used to sweep the guy out.
And I hit the top.
And then you hit the top. And, you know, I just saw over there with the bag before we were doing this, and you hit that bag pretty hard. I took a pretty bad fall back.
Yeah, you did. You got your clothes.
Yeah, but that's okay. We'll get you back.
Yeah, it's,
We'll get you back.
oh.
Okay, John Cross, we got another question for you. I mean, basically, you've always been in tag team matches, but when you originally started as the original eliminator, you were in single matches. But what do you prefer? Do you prefer tag team matches, or do you prefer single matches?
I prefer single matches because I'm my own person.
And you can always depend on yourself, basically.
Yeah,
You know what I'm
I
trying to
always
say?
depend on myself too.
You
Yes.
can always depend on yourself.
Yep.
Okay, we have a couple more questions for this man, the original eliminator, John Cross. You might have seen him anywhere around the Independent Network as well as ECW right here. Great. And you got that
Yes.
EPW hardcore belt.
Yep.
Now, I know that you won that recently in a three-way dance with Astro Man and El Mascarado. It was very bloody and it was very...
Yes.
They had to actually shut the cameras down because there was too much blood. They shut the cameras down.
I had no idea that they did that. But I got the belt. I won. I
But
kicked
that
butt.
belt, you don't really like belts though, right?
No, I don't like it. No, so.
Well, you don't really need a belt. There you go. Super cage, super, what do you want to call him? He's got some super feet. He's got some quick feet. He keeps them neat. And I tell you, you don't want to get hit by one of those flying feet because I tell you, I was holding the bag. I just took a good flying, as you say, good flying feet. Well, we don't want to say that, but please, no, okay, we can't say that.
No.
In this corner with big, bold, and beautiful. Hey, in this corner, we got another couple of questions here for John Cronis. In this corner with Rocky Raymond. Oh yeah, I'm big, bold, and beautiful, and I'm on the mic. I can work the stick, and I can really give it a lick. Let me tell you, right? Now, what do you need? I mean, you've been in all the big leagues. How come you're not in the WWE, as if you will? I mean, the big league now. And they got the NWA, TNA, Total Stop, non-stop action, but that's no big thing down in Tennessee. But how come you're not in the big league?
No, because I need a little bit of correction and perfection. Just a little bit.
Some direction.
And some direction. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, that's a good one too. Yeah, I need that too.
I know someone that might be able to help you out. I mean, basically, maybe,
Is he old school?
maybe I can help you out.
Yeah. I think so. I think
What kind of manager do you need?
I need a manager that has no fear and hard knocks. That's what I need. Yeah.
Okay. What about the great things that Mr. Cronis does throughout Australia, Japan, and all these great places? But right here in the Independent Network, BBB, Big, Bold, and Beautiful, is known pretty well, and I can, you know, maybe I can be a manager.
Yeah. Well, I already have a bad reputation.
I ain't a bad reputation.
Yeah. I heard about it. Yeah. It's woo-woo.
I don't take no shizzy.
Oh, it's okay. That's what I need.
I don't take
That's
my
what I need.
baloney. All right, we're going to go into this interview with the ending. We're going to name some one-liners, and we're going to see what John has to say about these particular people that are in the professional wrestling business. We're going to name the name, and he's going to give you a one-liner. Okay, with Mr. K, we're going to wrap up this week of In This Corner. We're going to start with Mr. Killer Kowalski.
Groveler.
Old Grob, okay. Brittany Brown.
Good person.
Nice person, okay. We're going to go with Victor Rivera.
Who?
Victor Rivera, the Puerto Rican sensation. Okay. John L. Sullivan.
Wasn't he a boxer?
No, John L. Sullivan became one half of the famous team, the Viner Brothers, Handsome Jimmy and Luscious Johnny.
Okay.
What about Hulk Hogan?
Hulk Hogan is over with me.
Okay, Hulk Hogan's over with him. And we're going to wrap this week of In This Corner up. See you next time on In This Corner.